Happy New Year. Hard to believe that this year has already come to an end. It has gone by so very quickly. I remember people used to tell me when I was younger, the older you get, the faster it goes. That's right. It's true. Yep. And then you begin to realize that you blink your eyes and the year is gone. And it is definitely something that I wish I would have really truly understood when I was younger. And I wish we could impress that upon the younger generation, that it really does seem to go faster. That the things that you want to accomplish, you just can't seem to get them done because everything just seems to be a blur as you find that time, even though it stays the same, in our older years, it just keeps moving faster and faster and faster. But as we come to an end of the Christmas season and begin to enter a new year, I want to take one more look at what is considered the Christmas narrative in the Bible. That Christmas narrative is filled with journeys. After the angel appeared to her, Mary journeyed to see Elizabeth and then back home to Nazareth. Then she and Joseph journeyed to Bethlehem. Later they journeyed to Egypt and then back to Nazareth. But in between their journey to Bethlehem and then to Egypt is one other journey. We find that journey in Matthew chapter 2, if you would. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." I think there's some things in this journey that we have a tendency to miss that are very applicable to us today. And so I want to take a look at this particular journey and try and help to bring out some of the things that I believe are very important to us. In ancient times, astronomy and astrology were intertwined. Basically, if you were an astronomer, you were an astrologer. Or if you were an astrologer, you were an astronomer. There was no differentiation like there is today. And the ancients were very astute astronomers as well as being astrologers. We see that in their carvings and in their drawings of the cosmos as they perceive them. And they are amazingly accurate. Extremely accurate. They even tracked the movements across the skies of the planets and the stars, and they seemed to understand there was a difference between the planets and the stars. And those who dedicated their lives to these were known as magicians or magi. We were first introduced to them in Exodus. And these particular magi were from the east, most probably Babylon. And their writings and historical records would have included information concerning the Messiah, for we read that after Daniel interpreted Nebuchadnezzar's dream when no one else could do it, in Daniel chapter 2, if you would, then the king placed Daniel in a high position and lavished many gifts on him. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed him in charge of all its wise men, or the Magi. So, as a result, we can kind of easily come to the conclusion, because of Daniel's commitment that we see throughout the book of Daniel, that they were probably not only well-versed in the prophecies concerning the Messiah, but were also looking for the signs. Because if you remember during our end-time study, when we were in Daniel, Daniel prophesied, this is when he will arrive. And so they were probably looking for the signs. They were searching for the indication that that Jesus had been born. Now, We know stars don't determine our fates, all right? We understand that. Although there are many who go to the astrologers who want to know, well, what do the stars say are going to happen to me now? How's my year going to be? Matter of fact, there are probably people searching the newspaper horoscopes right now as we're gathering here, wondering what this next year is going to bring beginning tomorrow. But we understand the stars do not determine our fate. We do know that they are used for navigation, and their position in the sky marks seasons and days and years. And while we do know that they do not determine our fate, well, let's see what else God said He would use them for, if you would. And God said, "Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night. And let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years. And let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth." And it was so. You see it? If you would, signs to mark sacred times. We can pretty well be sure if Daniel took time to thoroughly teach the things of God, he taught those that he was training as Magi to search for the indications of sacred times. And so we see references to the moon and the sun and the stars in reference to many things in the Bible. We saw that in Joseph's dreams. We see that in Revelation. We see that throughout. You know, we keep hearing about blood moons and things like that were indicated to be signs, and in some cases they are indicated as symbolic. Other times they're indicated as literal things. And so there was something that the Magi were looking for. They were watching for. They understood there was going to be a sign. And so, there was something that occurred that these Magi were able to recognize as a sign to mark a sacred time. Let me ask you a question. Did you know that there are specific prophecies concerning the arrival of the Magi? Did you know their arrival was actually prophesied? Most people don't even realize those prophecies are in there. We glance over them, don't realize that's what they're about. But I have found 3 at least, and there are probably more. And the first concerns what will cause the Magi to come looking for the one who is born King of the Jews. It's found in Numbers 24, if you would. "I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star will come out of Jacob. A scepter will rise out of Israel." All right. Now, the arrival of the Magi seems to indicate that they understood this prophecy to refer to an actual star appearing in the sky, which it did. And the appearance of this star is then directly connected with a king when it says a scepter will rise out of Israel. And there's one other thing that is significant about this prophecy that would have given the Magi reason to make the journey to see this child. It says, a scepter will rise out of Israel, not in Israel. Did you notice that difference? That's important. Very important to note. Because the prophecy is basically saying a king is not going to rise just in Israel. He's not going to just be a king of the Jews. In other words, this king of the Jews is not just going to have rule over the Jews. It is an indication of a rule that begins in Israel and expands outward to the world. Out of Israel, not in Israel. So then as we're looking at this whole picture of things, and there's a lot of other things we could get into here. Matter of fact, we could probably spend 3 weeks just on the Magi and this visit, but I don't intend to do that. I'm condensing this all down into some highlights along the way. But then we come up with a question. Why 2 years? If we were to continue reading the Matthew account, we find that based on what the Magi had to say, Herod had children had the boys 2 years and under killed. Why 2 years? I mean, first we need to understand something. These Magi would have considered this to be the journey of a lifetime because of their understanding of the prophecies. See, this wasn't just the birth of any king that was being signaled. All right? This wasn't, this isn't just another king being born in Israel. Remember, it's out of Israel. This was heralding to them the birth of the ultimate king that was being born as King of the Jews, but ultimately have a global rule. And that rule would quite possibly be over them. Of course, we understand that the global rule is a spiritual rule, that it's not a global kingdom physically that's set up, but rather it is the spiritual kingdom of God. And it is global. But at that time, even the Jews were expecting it to be an earthly, physical kingdom. And so in many ways, they saw this journey in much the same way. And as Jesus described the kingdom of heaven, if you would, in Matthew 13. The kingdom is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away, sold everything he had, and bought it. So that's the perspective that they're seeing this sign, this signal. This is what they've been waiting for. This is what Daniel had prophesied was going to happen. The ultimate king was going to be born. And now they're seeing the sign. And so to them, this was truly going to be a journey of a lifetime. But why 2 years? Well, there are some keys in a couple of prophecies about the Magi going to see the Christ child that we'll take a look at real quick. The first one is found in Isaiah 60, if you would. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Well, there's that sign of the light coming and everything. See, darkness covers the earth and thick darkness over the peoples, but the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. Lift up your eyes and look about you. All assemble and come to you. Your sons come from afar. Your daughters are carried on the hip. Then you will look and be radiant. Your heart will throb and swell with joy. The wealth on the seas will be brought to you. To you the riches of the nations will come. Herds of camels will cover your land. Young camels of Midian and Ephah. And all from Sheba will come, bearing gold and incense and proclaiming the praise of the Lord. And the second prophecy is found in Psalm 72, if you would. May he rule from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth. May the desert tribes bow before him and his enemies lick the dust. May the kings of Tarshish and of distant shores bring him tribute. May the kings of Sheba and Seba present him gifts. In those two prophecies, there's a place that shows up in both of those prophecies. It's Sheba. Remember what Isaiah said, if you would. And all from Sheba will come, bearing gold and incense and proclaiming the praise of the Lord. Sheba was not close to Babylon. Sheba was not even close to Jerusalem. Sheba was about 1,500 miles from Jerusalem in what is now Yemen in the south tip of Saudi Arabia. And during the reign of Herod the Great, this is where much of the wealth came from. Remember, this is no ordinary journey they are about to embark upon. And to go empty-handed was not an option. You don't go before any king empty-handed at this point in time. You always go bearing gifts. And now they're preparing to make a journey and go to see the King of all kings that has been born. And only the best gifts would suffice. And so there is going to be a preparation time. Because you want to make sure that what you are getting ready to take is the best that you can possibly obtain. And each gift represented what the prophets had foretold about this newborn king. And so part of your preparation time is probably going to include waiting for the traders to arrive from Sheba. Bringing these things that you are waiting to arrive, and you're going to obtain from these traders the things that you are going to take to this newborn king. Because you see, in actuality, the journey from Babylon to Jerusalem only took Ezra and all of the Israelites coming out of exile 4 months, not 2 years. But Scripture specifically have told us they came from the east. So there's got to be a reason it took 2 years, because it's preparation time. You are preparing to make the journey of journeys. You are getting your entourage together. You are doing your planning. You are getting your gifts together. You are getting, you might say, all of your ducks in a row. You know, people say, I'm getting my ducks in a row. Well, I'll be honest with you, I don't have ducks. All right, I've got squirrels. And they're all at a rave. They're not in a row. So, but just so we're clear on that. But like I said, and so the journey was to see the one who would rule eternally, as the prophets foretold. Matter of fact, we read in Genesis 49, if you would, the scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until he to whom it belongs shall come, and the obedience of the nations shall be his. And so it was a journey, not just of a lifetime, it was a journey to not be missed. They were making sure that there was going to be nothing that was going to interfere with them making this journey. Not only are they gathering the gifts together, not only are they getting their entourage organized, they're making sure that everything that could possibly get in the way is taken care of. Matter of fact, they're probably even telling their family, here's what you need to understand. If any of you die, I'm not hanging around, I'm making the journey. That's the importance that this journey was to them. It was a journey that you were going to tell your family, friends, and anyone who would listen about. It was going to be a journey to write about, to remember. It was a journey to be told to your children and their children after them. Because you see, this journey was to see the one born King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He was the priest of priests. He was the ultimate perfect lamb to be sacrificed. And making a journey to see him was a journey that you were not going to let anything get in the way about. He was to be the Messiah who would save the world, not just the Jews. He was the one who would make everything new, not just a new year, a new life, a new existence. This morning, we are on the precipice of a new year. Tonight, this current year will pass and the new year will begin. Take a look around. Maybe we need to take a look in the mirror and ask ourselves some hard questions about our faith. Have we lost the awe and wonder of His birth, His death, and His resurrection? Because as you go through the Scriptures and you read all of these different events, not just the ones pertaining to His birth, but also pertaining to His death and His burial and His resurrection, we find that to those who were there, there was a sense of awe and wonder. There was a sense of, I am glad I did not miss this. Even those at the cross at the time wishing it hadn't happened, after the fact you begin to understand through the Scriptures that they are so glad they were there to see Christ giving His life for them. To witness it. Even though it was horrible at the time. But then to 3 days later find out that the tomb was empty. And the awe and wonder behind the fact that their Lord had been raised. He hadn't just been sacrificed to pay for their sin. He had been raised from the dead. And in much the same way that the journey to Bethlehem was a journey that you just did not want to miss from the perspective of the Magi, so too the journey to the tomb for Peter and John and all those who went to find the tomb empty. So have we lost the awe and wonder of His birth, His death, and His resurrection? Could it be that maybe we have allowed our faith to become too commonplace, too comfortable? Is it maybe possible we have allowed ourselves to become disconnected from how awesome all of what God did really is? Have we reached the point where, yeah, that's what God did, yeah. Rather than, wow, that's what God did. Can you wrap your mind around it? In other words, has it lost what you might call the wow factor? Because the reality is, when we begin to wrap our minds around everything that God has done for us, behind the miraculous birth, behind all the events surrounding His birth, behind everything that throughout His ministry, behind His death and His burial and His resurrection, everything that took place, we should be waking up every day with a wow factor in our life. Wow, what God has done for me. Wow, He's given me another day of life. Wow. And yet how often do we wake up, just another day. I'm tired, I hurt, I ache. I sound like a breakfast cereal cracking and popping and everything else. And have we lost the wow factor of the reality of what God has done for us? Maybe it's time for us to take that journey of a lifetime once again as we enter this new year. And not just to the manger, in the house where He was living when the Magi arrived, but to the cross and the empty tomb. And not just once, but make that journey as many times as it takes to get out of the mode and get back to the wow mode of what God has done for us. To get back to where we want to tell everyone we meet, everyone we know. I mean, if we take a look at what took place at that point in time in Scriptures, people that came to Christ wanted everyone else to know what they had found. In many ways, you might say they came to the manger, they came to the cross, they came to the tomb, they were changed, they were transformed, and they wanted everybody to know what they found. And they didn't care what people thought. They didn't care what it was going to cost them in this world. The only thing they knew is they had found the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Priest of Priests. They had found the Lamb that had been sacrificed to them, and they wanted everyone to know it. And they wanted everyone to know what He had done for them. So maybe we need to make those journeys again and again and again until we reach that point in our lives once again to where that wow factor is there and we want everyone to know what we have found in Jesus Christ. We have a world out there that is hurting, that is struggling, that is falling apart, and the only one who can fix it isn't the President of the United States. It's not the United Nations. It's not the preachers in the pulpit. Only Jesus Christ can fix it. I think C.S. Lewis summed up the whole thing in one simple phrase, one simple sentence, when he said, if you would, once in our world, a stable had something in it that was bigger than our world. Understand what he's saying? He's saying, wow, to what was lying in that manger. And as I try to picture those Magi coming and bringing their gifts, knowing full well who they were bringing their gifts to, I wonder how emotional, how overwhelmed they were to be coming into the presence of the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Priest of Priests, the ultimate sacrificial lamb, the Creator of the universe. Yes, to the Magi, it was the journey of a lifetime to find the house where he was living. Maybe, like I said, maybe we need to make that journey again ourselves. And not just once. As many times as it takes for it to sink in. As many times as it takes to transform us. As many times as it takes for us to realize that child that the Magi brought gifts to truly is Lord of all. Have you made that journey recently? Or is it just simply something that happened in your past? At a point in time where for at least a few moments there was that wow factor. And you made a decision. You made a choice. But maybe since then, it's become a little bit commonplace. I want to encourage you today, as we enter into this new year, to begin making that journey again and again and again. And rediscovering what the Magi understood. That journey is the journey of a lifetime. And we need to make that journey until it finally becomes that journey of a lifetime. And we find ourselves coming away from the manger, from the cross, and from the tomb. Changed from the inside out. With a renewed zeal, a renewed fervor, a renewed commitment to Jesus Christ and His church, His kingdom. Are you prepared to begin making that journey again? Would you begin making that journey today?